You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
All right, Curtis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners a little bit something interesting about yourself and also where you're from. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm from Gilbert, Arizona. I'm an Arizona native. There's not very many of us. I'm married with 5 kids. So I always like to joke that I'm really good at 2 things in life, making money and making babies.
Making babies and making money. I love it. That's awesome. So you're in Gilbert now?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm at my house right now.
Tell us a little bit about the company.
I own a company called SunCor Financial. We're a modern financial company, I call us. I call myself a money scientist because I'm not emotional. I don't really get emotional when it comes to how you're supposed to invest your money. I'm really straight and forward. Hey, this is a science. There's a thing called compounding interest. When you understand how compound interest works and the mathematical side of it, it becomes very simple to become financially prosperous. It's not so much financially free. I want prosperity. I want abundance. A lot of people think that like, oh, I'm debt free, I made it. No. That's not abundance. We need to have an abundance mentality and things become quite simple then.
I want to back into that really quick because I love what you just mentioned. A lot of people's relationship with money, as you know, in your profession, and I've seen as a young professional out there for years and years about seeing how people react to money is different. How did you create the mindset around being non-emotional with money?
Okay, so this is a long story, but I'll cut it down real short. I started a business in 2004, and for 10 years, I was the no risk, no reward, go for home runs, 17 different businesses, and it was just crazy all the time. Make, lose, home run strikeouts, make $1 million, lose $1 million. I mean, it was kind of insane. And on October 31st of 2014, I lost over $2 million in a single day, and it was crushing. It was crushing. And because that was basically everything I had built for 10 years was gone in a blink of an eye, which happens to entrepreneurs all the time. We build our businesses, we scale our businesses, and they go out of business. And it was a little bit out of my control, and that's for another day. But on that day, I said, I'm married with 5 kids. I need to start looking at this differently. It's not about how much money I make, but it's how much I can keep and how secure I can make that keep. And I had to completely recondition my brain that this was a marathon. It was not a sprint. And luckily I was 33 at the time and not 53. So I had plenty of time to rebound. But on that day, I said, I will become the world's expert, not on how you make money, because everyone in their influencers and their podcasts and their seminars and conventions tell you how to make money. No one freaking tells you how to keep the money. And that is what is going to be my claim to fame.
I think that's very true. And I think that for listeners, having a company and a professional like Curtis being able to help you reverse engineer into those goals of where you need to be and why you want to be it, and not having that simple money relationship of more. Right? Having more does not equal more. Most of it is just understanding what are your fixed costs. A lot of people don't know what the heck that is. And you'll be surprised, even some of the big dogs out there. What are my fixed costs? If you have a business and if you have a business right now and you're listening, you got to if you can be lean, I say be lean as much as you possibly can, but also understanding like what your fixed costs are and what your true take home after taxes, and being able to make sure that makes sense. And that's a company like Curtis does for you. What kind of advice do you give, or who's your specific, what's your demographic? What's your clientele, Curtis?
Obviously every entrepreneur and every business says everyone, right? But
you can't be everything to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. It's specific to the people who actually care about making goals for their future self. We live in this instant gratification, immediate reward society where those who actually say, what does my 10, 15, 20-year self look like? Those are the people I connect best with, because the thing with money is it is slow and steady. If you ever go for the home run, you're always at risk of the strikeout. I believe in singles and doubles, but unfortunately with singles and doubles, it's not exciting, but it will compound. And once you understand how compounding effects actually work in your life, if you can believe in what is best in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, inevitably, you will end up with millions and millions of dollars. If you're willing to look at it slow, steady, and secure, never, ever, ever, ever put yourself at strikeout. I always say this one saying that not losing has more value to you than hitting a home run. And that's like so anti-entrepreneur because we love the no risk, no reward. And I said, no, it's eliminate risk, maximize reward. That is what the saying should be, because think how ridiculous no risk, no reward is. What if someone came to you and said, to have the best health, you have to put yourself at risk? You would say that is complete ludicrous. Or to have the best marriage, you have to put your marriage at risk. That's retarded.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Or for your kids to have the best future, you have to put your kids at risk. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
So how have we been conditioned to believe that to have the best financial future, we have to put our money at risk? It makes no sense at all, but it's easy to sell someone. It's easy to sell a book and a convention and all the different things that we're trying to be sold every day because it's instant. We feel it. We get emotionally bound to it when it's like, no, boring is better, slow, steady, less is more, like you just said.
Right. No, absolutely. I think I want to touch on the compound effect, and I'm going to ask you to explain it. But I use that analogy a lot, just when the self-help development world, and just because I'm obsessed with it, and I think that it's something that we talk about in that world. When I say we, I mean you think about like the me myself, but also of course just a ton of the top dogs, the Jim Rohns and the Tony Robbins of the world that really understand what the compound effect is in yourself. Now, let's talk about what it means in the financial side. What is, for those listening that don't understand the compound effect, what does that mean?
Compounding effect is the ability for your money to make additional money for you. And then that money also makes additional money for you. So I basically say it's the best business model you'll ever start because it's full-time employees that cost nothing, that have an unwavering desire to make money for you for the rest of your life. And if you can take compounding interest and make that the focus rather than, here's where it gets a little bit fun when I talk to people, it's not about your rate of return. It's not about the lowest expenses. It's not about your best tax advantages. It's not about your securities and guarantees. It's about all of them. If you neglect any principle inside of compounding interest, which includes how much you put into it, when do you put into it, how secure is it, how much are you growing, how liquid is it, how much can you leverage it, if you neglect any of those, you are not receiving the full potential of compounding interest. And the slightest variance from the mathematical side of compounding interest, which there's the actual math equation for compounding interest, which is funny, that people think it's just like, I need to go make money and the money makes money and get money working for you. No. It's y equals a parentheses 1 plus r to the x. That is the math equation. And a means how much money do you put into it. 1 means your starting point. The plus sign means your security. The R sign means your rate of return. And X means your leverage and liquidity. And all of those optimize this thing called compounding. And a lot of people don't realize inside of the stock market and real estate and business, they're not compounding. They have compounding features, but they're not compounding. The reason that is for example, if you had $10,000 in the stock market and you lost 50% of it in 2008, how much money do you have?
Right.
5,000, right? If you gain 50% back the very next moment, how much money do you have?
0.
Or if you had 10,000, you lost 50, and now you have 5,000. If you gained 50 back, everyone says you have 10,000 back. No, you have 7,500. It takes a 100% gain to make up a 50% loss. So every time you take 1 step back inside of money, it requires 2 steps forward just to break even. So you actually never compound inside the stock market. There's this graph that shows 1929 to 2019 inside the stock market. It is pure linear growth. There is no compounding effect that happened in the stock market for the last 90 years of the stock market because it doesn't understand why risk is the enemy of all compounding. So when I get into this compounding seminar, I tell people it's like A1 plus R to the X. There's a plus sign in this thing.
Right.
And the plus sign tells you cannot lose. Inside of health, what do? You can't take steps backwards. You cannot get injured and expect compounding results. Inside your marriage, you can't have a really bad fight and then expect compounding results. Inside of money, you cannot lose money and then have compounding results. So slow, steady, and secure. Singles and doubles. You don't need a home run. Don't get enticed by it as long as you never strike out.
And Curtis is just dropping some great knowledge on here, guys. And I know that if some of you guys aren't, a freak in the spreadsheets like we might be, understanding that these formulas that he's breaking down is that I love that you said there's a plus sign there and the average of return. You got to find out what your average of return is. What is the average return, Curtis? Like 7% right now that people, you're going to put in there something on the overall average, right?
Well, see, the important thing to understand is your actual, not your averages.
Right.
Everyone says averages, but
okay.
50% loss, 50% gain is a 0% average, but it's a negative 25% actual. And that is where we all get tricked.
Exactly.
When we hear this, mutual funds average 10%. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They average 6,
Yeah.
7, but yeah, 7% is kind of the baseline that we can get a consistent, solid, secure 7%. We never get a 15, 20. Because the moment you're in a 15-20 range, you're at the risk of a negative 20, negative 30. So yeah, a consistent 7 to 8% is where the sweet spot lies, where you can have security and growth simultaneously.
And tell everyone how important it is to keep feeding the pot, right? That's what I think a lot of times is that like, oh, if I just put in 50 grand now, sure, you're going to have some growth, but the compound effect over time when you continuously feed the engine. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I call it compounding the compound.
Yep.
It's great to have one employee that's going out and hiring more employees for you, who then hire more employees for you.
Yep.
But if you can get 10 and then 20 and then 30 all doing the same thing simultaneously, it is magic. It is pure. There's a reason why Albert Einstein called compounding interest the greatest mathematical discovery ever, the eighth wonder of the world, because it is truly, the more you can put into it, it is truly magic. And so there's this book that was written in 1926 called The Richest Man in Babylon. And this guy, George Clayson, who I call Money Prophet, because he says things in that book that were so advanced for 1926. They're even advanced for today. But he says the first rule of wealth, if you want to inevitably, 100% guaranteed, end up with prosperity, follow the first rule of wealth. And the first rule of wealth is pay yourself first. Meaning every single dollar you ever make for the rest of your life, part of it goes to your future self. It doesn't matter how much debt you have, how much bills you have, you want to go on vacation, any of that stuff you want to do. If you want to be prosperous and have abundance in your life, at least 10% of every single dollar you ever make for the rest of your life goes into compounding interest. And if you can do that, you will 100% of the time. It happens. It's math and science.
Life Nation, we're all striving towards different goals. Maybe your goal is to finally quit the 8 to 5 grind, quit your job, or take the next step with your existing business. Whatever the goal may be, regardless of your reasons, if you are serious about taking the next step and finally trying to build the life that you deserve, the life that you want to live, take the leap of faith with me. Go to michaellevis.com and let's discuss your goals and life. It's 100% free. There's no obligation. It's michaellevis.com. Schedule a quick call. I'd love to help.
Yep. And math cannot be manipulated.
It's proven. It's so proven over the course of how many tens of, or how many markets, bear markets or not, right? Like how many markets has it been proven over? Whether it's a law of averages, and now you're going towards a law of actuals, which is great because that's something that you can help people create, because that's more of a personal, what are my actuals, I assume, right, for each individual person. So like being able to find that and reaching out to Curtis and find out what are my actual returns on where I'm going to invest, but also making sure that you realize that keep feeding the pipe. It's like the engine is only going to get stronger when you keep putting gas in it, right? At some point, it's going to go for a long way, but at some point it might cap out with what you got in there. And so it's just making sure you find a way to keep feeding it and find out what it is that you're able to put away and keep investing that. Give us a little bit about, going back to the Business and Life podcast and you as an entrepreneur. Curtis, give me a time where you felt, you talked earlier about it when you were pretty much close to rock bottom there. How were you able to overcome that $2 million loss? Like, what did you do specifically? It's crazy.
So it was Halloween night, and I took my kids out trick-or-treating, and that day was my Armageddon day. And it was a partnership dispute. Unfortunately, I had an investor who had controls that, as entrepreneurs, when we get an investor, we give them everything, and they basically can do anything they want. And I didn't really sleep that night. I was like 10 years of my life gone in a blink of an eye. I got up that morning, and I'm a purebred entrepreneur, whereas I very quickly realized that money was the result, not the reason. I loved the game. And if you love the game and love what you do, money was just the result. And so I was like, hey, I built it once, I can build it again. And here's the crazy thing. Because I had 10 years of experience and I dedicated myself to never get enticed by the home run, the Bitcoins of the world, the you're going to make $1 gajillion tomorrow, all those things. But I was going to be slow, steady, and secure. I took the next year and just researched heavily on how compounding effects work, not on how making money works, but how my money can actually grow for me. And it took less than 1 year to get all the money back. I stopped making stupid investments. I already knew exactly what to do. I put it to effect, and I played the game to efficiency rather than going for the home run. And so I tell people, I go, if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, never, ever, ever do it for the money.
Yep.
Find something you absolutely love to do, because when I'm working at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, it's because I want to. I'm on a breakthrough. I'm going to do something. I'm about to discover something, or I'm about to like create this business model because I absolutely love the game. And
part of that game is failing, right? And I think a lot of people that are listening need to understand that what you just mentioned has a lot of it's a great sound bomb. It's loving the game and a business, not the money. Like if you get in it for the money, that's okay initially. Hopefully you have some passion towards it and you're excited about it, but you start realizing that the ups and downs are part of the game because there's no wins without losses, right? And if you're enjoying the journey rather than just the outcome, like you're going to end up having the outcome. The money's going to be there. And I remember I've hired coaches in the past now that I help people, but a lot of times I felt like I was paying somebody thousands of dollars a month to kind of pat me on the back sometimes and be like, Mike, you're going to be okay. Like you've been in business for 5, 10 plus years now. Like you're going to be fine. It's like, well, all right, well, what are we going to do? It's like, listen, you're going to relax and realize that this is going to pass. This too shall pass, and you're going to be better and you're going to make more because of it. And it's the absolute truth, whether it's compounding your knowledge and your failures that turn into wins.
Exactly. And if you bring value to people, if you can offer value, money will always be the result. And so then I take it one step further, because like you just said, hey, wins and losses. There is an actual key to this whole equation that sets me apart from everyone else. Don't lose. There is a way to not lose if you don't push past the actual 7% rate of return. I'm just using that as an analogy. Sure. But if you don't look past what you're capable of doing, and you don't try to go past be content with the 15% growth that is secure rather than going for the 40% growth that's insecure. And then when you lose, you go, it was an investment. I knew what it was. Oh, my earbud just popped out.
Oh, you went on mute.
Sorry, someone just called me.
All good.
If you get where you can literally start thinking slow and steady, your losses become minimal. You lose once every 10 years instead of once every 6 weeks, right?
You're talking about it. You're talking about realistic, and I'm not sure if you have a formula for this, but you're talking about a realistic, like a legit calculated risk. Calculated, yes. If you will, right? Like where you are insuring, and calculated risks are important. And so risks, yes. Calculated risks, yes, right? Like that's what it's about. Like if you can create a calculated risk formula around what you're doing, what's that mean? It means like what we're talking about. If you put X as your 7% return, and here's an idea. I throw out some ideas on like engines and what your percentages comes out to be. And if your business, for example, and this is something you probably mentioned this to your clients as well, but I get it from a high level number standpoint, not obviously nearly as intricate as Curtis. Call Curtis, not me. I don't know what the hell's going on when it comes down to all of these numbers. I say I'm a freak in the spreadsheet sometimes, but not even close to probably what Curtis got on the formulas he has. But calculated risk, like I know what my engine is. I know that my engine of my company on average is going to spend out 23 to 26% net. I know that. And so why would if I can reinvest in my company's engine, overall engines on overall companies, but my one company, the major large, the national group travel company, if I can invest into that, which is probably going to be people and processes, and that's going to consistently give me 23% net of cash flow, I'm just printing cash as long as the systems and processes are in there, right? That's how it works. Yeah. But if you can find an engine where it doesn't take all your time, effort, and pulling your hair out, by the way, and I would I exchange that for a 15% return where I can then go do my passions and et cetera, which I do now with this podcast and with the speakings and engagements and of course, like the coaching aspect of it, the actual, the mindset kind of forms. Yes, 100%. So knowing your numbers are so important, but talk a little bit about calculated risk and how you're able to kind of do that for clients.
So there is, like I said, there's this, and it's better on a visual, but there's this math equation called the compounding equation. And it's y equals a1 plus r to the x. And there are 5 components, a, 1 plus r and x. And so whenever someone comes up to me with their business model or their investment, or I have to make a decision in a business, I literally put in A1 plus R to the X. A is your investment. Are you putting money into it? Energy, time, whatever. Okay, yeah, check. Can I do it today? That's the 1 in the equation. Oh, yep, it's right now. It's in front of me. This investment opportunity is in front of me right now. Check. Plus, does it have possibility of losing? Right there is where most investment opportunities literally fall off the planet. So I don't even consider them. And be like, oh, but Curtis, the market's a $10 billion market, blah, blah. Is my money collateralized? If it's not collateralized, then it has the risk of losing.
Yeah.
What have you done to make sure you cannot lose, or to secure this or secure that? And so I don't even look at rate of return until I've secured the rate of return.
Wow.
If it does not have security first, I can't even look at R, because the equation's in chronological order. It is plus then R. It is not R and then plus. And so I have to get plus, and some people go, well, Curtis, I'll collateralize it with A, B, and C. Okay, now I can move on to R. What is the projected rates of return?
Yep.
They give it to me, and when they start going out 30s and 40s and 50s, I'm like, you're lying to me. That does not exist, because you're either lying about the plus sign, because you cannot get those type of rates of return without risk. And so let's dial this down. Let me coach you on be content with 15 to 20, 23, whatever. Those are sustainable growth numbers. 50, 100, 200, 1,000, like all these small businesses claim they're going to grow next year. I'm going to scale from 10,000 to $1 million to $47 million in 3 years. Like, give me a break. Like,
no.
I cannot trust you now because you don't understand the simple laws of mathematics.
Sounds like a pro forma.
Exactly. And then lastly, liquidity. Is it liquid? Because if it's liquid, then you can do a lot of fun stuff with leveraging. And if you can leverage, that's how you securely get 7, 8, 9%, but on multiple buckets. And if you can get a secure 7, 8, but on multiple buckets, now you're making the 20, 30, 40% like you wanted to, but it was done securely because it was done through the Y equals A1 plus R to the X. And I know that sounds so nerdy, but it literally has changed my life, because I made millions, I lost millions. I made millions, I lost millions. And the last 4 years of my life has only been making millions. I have no losses in the last 4 years of my life, because I don't allow myself to be in a position where I can lose, or at least it's collateralized if I'm going to invest in someone else.
Curtis, before we part here, how do all your successes and failures in business, and thank you for sharing those, by the way, $2 million, that's a big punch in the gut for anybody, right? And so what kind of advice would you give to the current entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs out there building their companies?
You are only in business for one reason and one reason only: protect your future self. The problem with business is 95% of the time your business will not be in business 15 to 20 years from today. And if you're on the mindset, and I know you just made a comment that you and I will have a discussion after this, but we get in this bad habit, and this is how I lost all my money, is I took every single dollar I ever made and I reinvested it back into my business, and I got my business to $20 million.
Yeah.
It went from 2004 to zero to $20 million of annual revenue in 2014. And I had no money. I had no liquidity. I had no protection. Nothing was my way, because my brain always told me, I'm a freaking awesome businessman. I'll scale my business to 50, then 100, and then I'll sell my business for $150 million and life's going to be great. And the probability of that happening, go back to my math side, my nerd side, the probability of your business being millions and millions of dollars and then you sell it and then you're awesome, you're just completely financially secure, unfortunately is very low. And so you are in business, and every dollar you make it is pay yourself first. Even if you make 100 grand this year, take 10 to 20,000 of it, set it aside and scale your business a little bit slower. Scale it a little bit slower. You're in business to protect your money. And when your money starts compounding, you'll look, if I would have set aside 50, 100 grand every year for those 10 years I was in business, I would have, when my Armageddon day happened, I would have had $2 to $4 million sitting there compounding for me.
Yep.
And my business probably wouldn't even have noticed. Whether you reinvest 90% or 60% or 100%, you're scaling only at the degree of your ability. It's really not the money that's scaling. And so you might as well pay yourself first. Every single day that you make $1, part of it goes back to your future self.
There you go, guys. These are, I usually call them value or sound bombs. These are nerd bombs, as Curtis put it himself. The nerd bombs are there. They're legit and they're real, and they're backed by proven science. 10 to 20%. If you can do 10%, great. Do something. The worst part is not being in the market as far as putting something towards this compound effect, as you will. So again, Curtis, thank you so much. Tell us where we can find you again.
I'm on Instagram. I am Curtis Ray. Facebook, social media, all of them are Curtis Ray or I am Curtis Ray. My website is SunCor Financial, SUNCOR financial.com. And my email is curtis@suncorfinancial.com. Anyone, anytime, anywhere that wants to talk about money and compounding, because compounding is, I just wrote a book. It's in edits right now. I have an Amazon best-selling book called Everyone Ends Up Poor.
Okay.
And I talk about how everything we've ever been taught is this linear function on not compounding, but instant gratification. I just wrote a second book. It's in edits right now. It's going to be published in the next 1 to 2 months. And you can only guess what the title is.
Compound effect.
The Lost Art of Compounding Interest.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And it is going to blow the socks off of the industry, the financial world, because I go in the deepest, most intricate, but simplified version of compounding interest. And so reach out to me on my website. Go buy my book. I mean, it's $3.49 or something. I don't really charge for it because it's not a moneymaker. It's a knowledge provider.
Awesome.
I really, really want to provide this education.
Thank you for getting that out there and getting people up to date. Read the book, check out Amazon, see what's coming out. I know that one's coming out soon, and jump on the website or shoot him an email. You'll see the show notes, all the stuff. You can just type in Curtis Ray and you'll see all the information that we just discussed today. In the meantime, again, Curtis, thank you so much for dropping all this info.
Thank you so much.
Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Libas, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.